on top of borrowing for things like car payments and just general housing expenses. So back to my original message, plan ahead. It's important now to start projecting what you hope to go into for a career, what you may earn in that career, and how you'll to get the credentials for that career. Again, lifestyle. When you enter into a student loan, you have to remember that that's an obligation that you have signed your name on and that you are going to be obligated to pay back at a future time. Many students default on their loans and devastate their good credit for a number of years, and that's a deep hole that you don't want to have to dig yourself out of. So I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint now. I'll tell you that I'm going to skip a lot of screens in an effort to try to get as much information as I can to you today. But I will very likely skip over a number of these screens just to be able to give you highlights and give us some time at the end to be able to talk a little bit more. The topic today is Financial Aid 101, and the most important words on this slide are at the bottom, georgiafutures.org. That is the website that the Student Finance Commission operates, that provides a wealth of information that you can use as a resource starting today and all the way through your higher education careers. First thing to think about when you're planning for college are all of the costs. Some people stop and think just about tuition. It's not just about tuition and fees. You need to be thinking about all the indirect costs, some of the other things that you are going to need and make sure you have money for as you have the best higher education experience possible. Always be thinking about total cost of attendance. Make sure that you consider everything that it's going to take for you to have that successful higher education career. And financial aid comes in a lot of different forms: scholarships, grants, loans, work study. Many of these are free. There's no obligation to repay, but be careful when you make decisions to make sure that you're considering what you will receive without any strings and any aid that you might receive that will require certain performance on your part. There's merit-based aid, like the Hope Scholarship program here in Georgia. There's need-based aid, there's loans, there's work study, grants, and also savings plans that I hope your families have looked at the Georgia Path to College program that allows folks to invest tax-free in their higher education goals. Georgia Futures scholarships, if you go to our website, you can start now looking at the scholarship opportunities across the country and across the globe. We try to have a comprehensive list of scholarship opportunities that you can be researching very early in your high school career and planning for whatever requirements there are for you to meet the criteria to be eligible for some scholarships. Very important on this slide, do not pay anybody to help you find them. We at Georgia Student Finance Commission have a full team of outreach folks that will help you navigate your way through all of the different scholarship search and aid opportunities and help you be selective and not have to pay someone to do that. There's a variety of federal aid programs, and I believe Ms. Sanders is going to provide you with this entire presentation, so I'm not going to go deep into all of the requirements, but there always are criteria to be eligible for certain types of aid, so make sure that you check those details.
I was just thinking,
I can hear somebody else on the call. Is somebody not on mute right now?
You know, in Boston, and I asked her what was her she.
I'll keep going, but please, folks, check your mute.
She really did.
Status.
She wasn't like, okay, I'm dying to use it now.
I'll move on. If you're looking at federal financial aid, a Pell Grant is for students with financial need. The Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is for students with exceptional need. There's criteria and eligibility for a TEACH grant, which is a federal opportunity for those that are going to go into the teaching career, and additional availability for those in that endeavor. We have federal work study programs. Many colleges and institutions also provide work study specific to their site. At the federal level, a number of loan opportunities, very different requirements for each of these, but something to consider. Generally, interest rates are lower than what you might find for an unsecured loan at a local bank. But again, be mindful to look at every opportunity before you start looking at loans. Loans come with a long-term commitment that have to be considered when you're looking at that full financial package. Now I want to talk about Georgia's specific higher ed financial aid programs. I assume you all heard of the lottery funded HOPE program. It's been in existence since 1993. We're really excited that just in September of 2021, we hit the milestone of 2 million students in Georgia that have benefited from this program. And just this month, we hit the milestone of $13 billion of lottery proceeds have been provided for students to meet their higher education goals. Very excited to be an administrator of the HOPE program and making sure that students and future students are going to have that opportunity. Lots of requirements for the HOPE program. The high level, be a legal resident of Georgia, follow all of the criteria that is listed at Georgia Futures. You have quite a bit of academic requirements to be eligible because this is a HOPE award. Eligible institutions across the state, not just our USG, University System institutions, which are listed under public, but you can see the list of private institutions that participate as well. And the technical college system in Georgia is also a provider of HOPE scholarship programs. We'll start with the HOPE scholarship. Eligibility requirements, students are pursuing an associate or bachelor's degree. They have to graduate high school with a 3.0 HOPE GPA. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And during high school, you must take 4 academically rigorous courses and receive credit to be eligible. Something I want you to be thinking about now, which is why I'm glad I'm chatting with you today. It's really important that you ensure that you get the required courses in at high school level to be eligible for the HOPE scholarship. These rigorous courses are listed on the Georgia Futures website, include those that are listed here in the course for language, but please use our website for the extensive list of those rigor courses that are a requirement for the HOPE scholarship. Georgia Student Finance Commission are the organization that calculates your HOPE GPA. We track, starting when you enroll in high school, the course transcripts that your high school collects. They upload them to us. We use them to calculate all of your criteria from 9th through 12th grade, and we can track your eligibility starting in 9th grade. But you can too. I will hope that by the end of today, the second message you take away after planning ahead is to go and log into Georgia Futures, create your account now, and then you'll be able to track your progress towards your eligibility for all of the Georgia programs. If you log in and create your account, you'll be able to track your HOPE GPA. And as you can see on this screen, you'll be able to see what the GPA calculation is, see what rigor credits you have attained, and it will indicate, as you can see over on the left screen, based on your calculation, you'll be eligible for HOPE or Zell or other of our scholarship programs. Maintaining the Hope Scholarship, there's criteria as you are enrolled in higher education, and you can continue while you're in college to utilize Georgia Futures to check your progress and your continued eligibility. As I said, this is a merit scholarship, so college students need to maintain at least a 3.0 Hope GPA as they're progressing towards their associate's or bachelor's degree. As I said earlier, you can monitoring your as again I mentioned earlier, this is only calculated by us. The high schools do not calculate your Hope GPA. So please register at georgiafutures.org as soon as you can, and you can track your progress. Please note that dual enrollment courses that you take while you're in high school are not included in the calculation. However, the more dual enrollment courses that you can get under your belt while you're in high school, the less you will have to go out of pocket for those courses when you enroll in college. And I know you, as for financial planning purposes, and your families as well, are going to be grateful for every college credit that you can earn in high school that you won't have to pay for in college to get you that jump start on your first degree in your higher education goals. The Zell Scholarship is similar to the Hope, but it pays 100% of tuition at the schools that are eligible that you saw earlier. There are rigor requirements, as well as each high school valedictorian or salutatorian is automatically awarded, and if they meet the Hope eligibility requirements. Others must have a minimum 3.7 Hope GPA at high school and qualified test scores from SAT or ACT. Eligibility for the Zell program occurs only once. You become eligible with your high school performance, and then you, as long as you retain it in college, you remain receiving the 100% tuition award. Unlike the Hope program that you can qualify for in high school, potentially lose eligibility in college, and you have the ability with the Hope program to regain it. For the Zell, you qualify at high school, and you must retain it during your college studies to continue to get that full tuition payment at the universities that you attend. If you lose it, it is not retainable. However, if you lose it, you may still be eligible for the Hope program. Again, that is tracked through our Georgia Futures account, so you can continue to monitor your eligibility as you study. Again, it's very important for those that attain Zell status to buckle down and make sure that they continue that 3.3 GPA requirement while they're studying in college. We also have grant programs that are offered from the Hope dollars that are generated from the Georgia Lottery. These are for students that enroll in certificate of diploma programs, not associate's or bachelor's degrees. High school diploma or GED is not required for these areas and avenues of study, and a high school GPA or test scores are not considered. This is open to anyone that seeks that additional education. Primarily, it's offered through our technical college system, but not solely. And students can, if they maintain a 2.0 GPA at checkpoints, they are awarded the Hope grant for 30 and 60 semester hours. It's good for a maximum of 63 paid semester hours, unlike a 120 to 127 that the Hope and Zell provide for. The Zell grant does require a higher GPA, but the Hope grant is just the 2.0. This is primarily used for students that are not looking for a full college degree, a traditional college degree, but are potentially pursuing careers as seen on this list. A Hope Career Grant provides a little bit of additional aid for those that go into these specific areas of career. Right now, we have shortages in many of our workforce pipelines, And so these careers have been determined by governors in the General Assembly as critical for our economic prosperity. So additional funding is provided for students that are pursuing these endeavors. A Hope GED grant is funds awarded to students that get their general education development diploma at a TCSG institution. They receive additional funds that they can apply for additional studies past their GED. Access is a burn, or as I said earlier, loans should always be considered the last form of aid that you take. But if you need it, and it's going to make the difference on achieving your credentials, then you do need to look at it. The Student Access Loan Program was created about 10 years ago and has a very low interest rate for qualified Georgia borrowers. We offer 1%, which is significantly lower than federal loan interest rates or something that you might find from a local bank for unsecured borrowing. We do require monthly payments of $10 for borrowers, just to make sure that we have a way to keep in touch, so that when you go into repayment after you finished your college studies, we know how to get a hold of you and we can set up your repayment terms. There is a significant application process that is all available on our Georgia Futures website. And the institution that you are studying at has to indicate that you do have a financial need to be eligible. So we will, Student Finance pays the institution the proceeds from these loans directly after they certify that a student is eligible to be awarded these student access loans. Many requirements, as I said, I'm not going to go deep into this. One thing I do want to highlight at the bottom of this screen are service cancellation options. Currently, if teachers, STEM teachers, or your career endeavor is to be a teacher or to go into any public service role, we allow the loans that you borrow from the student loan program to be discharged based on your serving in these fields after you graduate. For each year that you serve in as a teacher or any public service role, we will discharge a year's worth of student loans that you have borrowed from us. So we're trying to emphasize that more for folks that are going into public service roles. For example, you come work with us at Student Finance, that would make you eligible for a cancellation of borrowing. Again, a smart way to really be mindful of reducing that future debt burden. Again, lots of application eligibility amounts. This is for applications for enrollment at our technical college system. A bit different. The loan amounts are lower for borrowing at TCSG institutions. And this is for certificate, diploma, or degree at TCSG. Many other requirements, as I said, you'll get this PowerPoint that you can refer to, and all of this information will be available to you at georgiafutures.org. We also have other state programs that I wanted to stop and point out. If you enroll in the Georgia National Guard program while you're studying, you can receive service cancelable loans to pay for your education. And as long as you perform your service that's required in the National Guard, all those loans will be canceled. We also offer a public safety memorial grant assistance to dependent children of public safety officers in Georgia who've been injured or killed in the line of duty, hoping to help those heroes' descendants have an opportunity to get their higher education paid for by the state. And a tuition equalization grant for students that go to private institutions in Georgia where costs are higher than our public system. There are grants that help bridge that gap. Other programs, we have Georgia Military College, cancelable scholarships. Other scholarships, I'm not going to go deep into this. The one I will stop at is the scholarship for engineering education. This is provided for students that study at Mercer University. If they pursue an engineering degree and work in Georgia after they receive this degree, their scholarships will be 100% non-payable. If they choose not to serve in that role, then it will convert to a loan. Again, Georgia Futures has all of the deep details on this that you can start planning for today. And this is where you would go on our Georgia Futures website. Start looking at the application form now. All of the components that I've just available to you, and also open an account at Georgia Futures and learn more and get more information as well. Your information will be very specific to you, and we hope that the sooner you sign up, the better from our perspective, because we can start pushing out information to you. I also want to bring to your attention the Georgia Student Finance application that is specifically for Georgia programs. I'll talk about the FAFSA, the federal application for financial aid, in a moment. But for many in Georgia, they are not eligible for any federal financial aid. And if they choose not to complete the federal FAFSA form, they can go directly to our website and complete the Georgia financial aid application, the GSF app, and be eligible for HOPE and other Georgia programs. So that's an opportunity for your parents to start looking at now. So to the FAFSA, again, I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. This is complicated, and of course, complicated more so because the federal free application for federal student aid form is being completely revised. A year from now, when folks apply on an annual basis on the federal FSA website, they'll find that if they had been applying in the past for older siblings, the application process will be dramatically different. So I'm not going to go deeply into this other than that you create an ID using that to sign in. If you're a dependent of your parents, parents will also need to sign in and get an ID. There's lots of FAFSA completion events that Student Finance hosts across the state. Georgia Futures has a list of all FAFSA completion events in person or online that can help you. We highly recommend you don't pay anyone to help you complete a FAFSA. There are private firms that will offer to help you find money. I know that anybody who is enrolled in Student Leadership Johns Creek has all of the talents to be able to do all of this research and good decision making on your own and not spend money to profit someone else. Again, you go to the Federal Student Aid website. That's an online platform where all of these applications can be reviewed and completed. A lot of good information to be studying in advance. And as I said, with much of the FAFSA form changing in the future, good to get familiar now, but also to study up on what might be different when you apply later on. After you complete a FAFSA application, the student aid report will be generated, usually in under a week. That will tell you what the federal government believes your estimated financial need will be for pursuing your education institutions that you identify. And they may ask for additional documentation if they find that the application is incomplete. But this will provide you some high level of guidance on what the feds believe you're eligible for federal aid. And you can use it for comparative purposes if you're trying to decide on which institution you might wish to enroll in. Comparing financial aid packages. I'm going to bring you back to georgiafutures.org once again. If you're completing the FAFSA, you will have to list an institution on that application, and they will provide some of that to you when they issue the SAR report. Definitely go to each institution that you are considering as financial aid office and look to make sure that you have the appropriate ID numbers for that institution when you're completing that FAFSA. Similarly, a lot of that information you'll need to use when you're comparison shopping on the Georgia Futures website. Most of the information is similar when you receive award offers. It will talk about how much the full cost of attendance, which I spoke of at the beginning of the presentation, the amount of aid that the institution is providing, the amount the family is expected to provide, and then, of course, that gap that you'll have to find ways to fill. This might see of what grade public or private or community aid is available to students, and then where the gap funding might need to be searched for. And it will also indicate opportunities for borrowing as far as subsidized loans. Again, all of those come with very specific criteria that it's very important you do your homework on. The best order to accept aid, and this is a very important slide, always look for the free money first. Scholarships and grants are critical. Maximize your search. Understand all the conditions. Be sure that they truly are free. As you heard me mention earlier, there are some scholarships and grants that if you don't perform specific service after you graduate, it converts to a loan. Be sure you know that it's truly free. Work study is the next thing to consider. That's something that you can be performing while you're studying that provides you with financial aid against your cost to attend, and it doesn't have to be paid back. Money is generally paid through a paycheck based on the amount of time that you and service you perform, and always be mindful of balancing your work, study, life, quality of life, and leisure time activities. Make sure you think that through. Again, planning ahead, starting today, couldn't be more important. Federal student loans are a wonderful thing, but they must be paid back with interest. Be very mindful what those interest rates might be. Right now, the average amount of student loan debt per borrower in the nation is just under $39,000. And when you're paying that back with interest, take a few minutes to amortize how much that might cost you. A quick example, a $50,000 loan that you pay back over 10 years at an interest rate of 5% is going to require you to pay back $63,600. If you spread that out to 15 years, you're going to be paying back $71,000. So interest adds up. So be mindful before you consider a loan, just exactly what you're obligating yourself to pay back in the future. Starting now to create a budget for the future and knowing, you're going to have to eat, you're going to have rent, you're going to have a lot of expenses after you get your degree and go into the workforce. Prepare a budget now and make sure that if you're borrowing, you're going to be able to pay it back. Consider a subsidized loan first. Interest doesn't accrue until after you graduate and go into the repayment period. An unsubsidized loan, the interest will start, that interest clock starts ticking as soon as you sign that promissory note, and you will continue to build a debt that you won't have to repay until you graduate, but that debt continues to grow. Next, consider state government or college loans. Again, devil's in the details. Interest is going to accrue, and depending on the terms, the clock might start ticking as soon as you sign that form, or it may be deferred until a later date. Very important for you to do all of those mathematical calculations before you obligate yourself to future debt. Private loans must be paid back with interest as well. In many cases, the interest rate is higher, and you may even be required to start paying back immediately and not be able to defer it until you finish your studies. Be very mindful on the order in which you apply. And again, as you see in all of these cases, understand the conditions. going on Georgia Futures now, you can start studying about what that fine print might have and how that might impact your future quality of life. I know, as I mentioned, when my husband and I came out of school and got married in the early 1980s, when interest rates to borrow were 15 to 18%, we ate a lot at our parents'. We ate a lot of spaghetti dinners because we were maxed out on our borrowing. And it made us very conscientious. And I will brag a little bit that we realized as we started a family that the most important gift we could give our children was that gift of education. So we started early on our financial planning for goal that we are proud to have children graduate from college with their first degree fully paid for with no student debt. And I'm really proud of 2 bulldogs and 1 yellow jacket that are successfully out there in the workforce, that we were able to give them that gift. So be thinking about that now, be talking about it with your family, be planning ahead. Additional resources, again, I've talked about georgiafutures.org. I hope you will go there as quickly as possible and open up your account. We are working at Georgia Student Finance to develop a outreach app that will be downloaded on your mobile device so that we can push information out to you as you navigate your high school studies and plan for that higher education. We currently on Georgia Futures have planning guides for each year that you're in high school, 9th through 12th grade, with some of the tips I mentioned today, but more detailed information is also available on the site. And we, this year, have released our first issue to a pilot group of 12th graders, a Plan and Pay for College award letter, which allows them to comparison shop on details, as we showed earlier in the presentation, for Georgia or specific schools, Hope eligible schools. We plan to offer that to all 9th through 12th graders, and we are developing a student-specific dashboard at georgiafutures.org that will allow you to go in and simulate in real time at any time what future costs might be for an institution you're interested in, so that you can not only be considering what personal goal you have for your career, but you can plan for the financial achievement of it with a minimum amount of future debt. Our GSFC website also has a lot of information about these programs. Some of the specifics are listed there as well. Again, Fafsa.gov to learn in advance before you get to 12th grade and have to complete the Fafsa. The more you know about it now, the better prepared you can be for best utilization when you file that form. Georgia Futures website, here's a screenshot. I hope that we'll see all of you have signed up in the next few days so that we can start messaging to you and you can start asking us. We have initiated a virtual advisor on the website in the past year and very pleased at the utilization of this chat function. We've had close to 50,000 students get their answers at the virtual advisor chat. And we've just recently launched a student-specific questions that can be answered. You can ask the virtual advisor what your Hope GPA is, and if the high schools have given us the transcripts or the colleges have given us the transcript information, the virtual advisor is going to be able to help you with that. So your next steps, I've repeated it through this conversation, create your Georgia Futures account as soon as possible. Stay on track. I know you are all great students, but make sure that our calculation in Georgia Futures keeps you on track. Remember, it's different than what your high school is telling you your GPA is. So please be mindful and keep checking. Make sure you take those rigor courses. Make sure you are mindful of all of the eligibility requirements. If you're looking for the Zell Scholarship, you will have to take an SAT or ACT exam and receive those scores that make you eligible. And then seniors, 12th graders, October 1st is the day each year that the federal government opens the Fafsa platform for completing the FAFSA applications for enrollment in the following year. So that is all of the details that I have for today. As I mentioned earlier, Ms. Henders will have this PowerPoint available to you, as well as all of this information is merely a click away for you at georgiafutures.org. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I will turn it back to our hosts, and happy to try to answer any questions I can or talk about anything else that might interest you as far as student finance or good financial planning.
Hi, I'm Tarmash, and at this time, any students or parents can unmute and ask any questions.
So I will go back to my original comments. Plan ahead, go to georgiafutures.org. We've got a wealth of information and a wealth of opportunity for every student in Georgia.
Well, while we're waiting, we have a couple questions for you. So
Sure.
the first one is that in comparison to other states, do you think the scholarships and grants in Georgia make education much more accessible, or do you think there are better methods to do so?
Georgia is proud and has national distinction for the incredible breadth of financial aid that we offer. We are the benchmark for state financial aid with the Hope Scholarship program, and other states have mimicked that opportunity. In 1993, at the time, Governor Zell had that dream to ensure that our students could educate themselves here in Georgia. And so he advanced the Hope program. And as I said earlier, 2 million students have benefited from that. That is an amazing opportunity. Other states can't brag similarly that amount of higher education financial aid with no strings attached other than to do good in school and get a great education. So we're very proud of our opportunities. We are one of the few states that also offers that student loan that I spoke about. Most states do not have state loan opportunities. They tend to rely on private sources or the federal government. So I would say that we are leaders nationwide in all of the opportunities we provide for our students studying in Georgia.
We do have a question in chat. If you go to a school out of state, then transfer to an in-state school, will you still be eligible for Hope and Zell?
Very good question, and I don't have an immediate answer on that, but you know what? Go to the virtual advisor on Georgia Futures. I believe that there may be some eligibility criteria after returning to a state school, but it's not automatic, so I would encourage folks to go study that up. And I'll do the same thing, so I'll be ready for that question next time.
Tara, do you want to ask the next question that's in chat?
Yes, I can.
Yes, good morning. My question is more in regards to scholarships and financing at a private Georgia university as compared to a public Georgia university. Can you highlight on that, please?
Absolutely. The Hope and Zell Miller scholarships pay a fixed amount at each of those eligible institutions that I listed on the screen earlier in the presentation. If you go to the Student Finance website, there is a drop-down menu, awards and amounts, and you can see based on the Hope eligible institution exactly how much a Hope scholarship or a Zell Miller scholarship will pay at those institutions. As you know, private institutions tend to cost more. There is, proportionally less that the Hope and Zell Miller scholarship provides for at the private institutions. But again, it's very specifically defined on our website. So you can go study now if you're interested in attending one of the private institutions in Georgia. You can see what the Hope and Zell currently pay.
I have a question. I remember you said that the Hope GPA is calculated from your 9th through 12th grade classes, but does your Hope GPA also include core classes that you took in middle school?
Check online. It's very possible that if you took middle school courses that are eligible for high school credit, then yes, they would be included in that calculation.
Thank you.
But go ahead and sign up and you can see now what it is that you have current credit for in that calculation. You can also reach out to our advisors. We have an outreach team, and one of our representatives, Adrienne, is specifically for Fulton County students. You can send her an email from georgiafutures.org if you have very specific questions on your situation while you're in high school.
Thank you.
We have another question in the chat, and it says, if you want to go out of state, could you apply for that state's FAFSA form, or is it only for in-state students?
Well, if you apply for the federal FAFSA, that is for any institution. Georgia has specific. There again, go ahead and do some research. If you have an institution that you have in mind that's not in Georgia, I'm sure their financial aid page on their website will give you some direction there. But the FAFSA is information for nationwide federal aid. If you know you're going to go to a Georgia college and you believe that you are not eligible for any federal aid, then you can skip that step and go straight to the GSF app and put yourself in for eligibility for Georgia programs.
Thank you.
We have another question that says, is the Georgia Finance application only for those who don't complete the FAFSA?
It is for the Georgia programs only. So if you don't complete the FAFSA for any reason, you know you want to go to a Hope eligible school in Georgia, then you can just go straight to GSF apps and fill that form out. Again, you'll know your eligibility based on following your Hope GPA information at Georgia Futures. Question?
Are in-state colleges already aware of our Hope/Zell eligibility, or is there an application on GA Futures?
The institutions do not know your eligibility. That information is available only to you when you sign in at Georgia Futures. However, you will, when you apply to an in-state institution, we will provide that information to them. So they will know your eligibility, and then they won't invoice you for the tuition or other scholarships for which you're eligible. They will invoice us. Any other questions?
So we have a couple more for you. These are more about yourself, but why did you seek to be in an elected office?
Very good question. I truly didn't seek it, or I didn't know I was seeking it. Let me put it that way. I was a community advocate way back before the city was formed, and really cared about how my community was developing. And of course, my children were at Chattahoochee High School at the time, and my son was over at State Bridge Crossing Elementary, and I really cared about how our quality of life was being impacted by county government. And we lost, tragically, Fulton County Commissioner Bob Fulton, and we had a vacancy. And many of us sat around the table and said, well, somebody's got to help defend the quality of life that we really hold so dear here in North Fulton. And did a soul searching and supported a family, and I put my name out there on a ballot, and was very proud in 2004 to be elected as a successor to Commissioner Fulton. And from there, it's just been a blessing. Another message I will leave with each of you, I think you already know it because you're in student leadership Johns Creek, but never say no to an opportunity that puts itself in front of you. You just never know how exceptional it may turn out. And my proudest moment was working with Mike Bodker and other community advocates that I've been working with to create the city of Johns Creek. And you know, the 15 years of distinction that we've had in the city that has created student leadership Johns Creek is just one of the byproducts that make every day in public service worth my while.
We have another question that you kind of just answered, but it's what has been your greatest challenge and greatest achievement during your time in public service?
Well, the greatest achievement, I will always go back to the city of Johns Creek. And it was very exciting to create Sandy Springs and Milton, and then all the rest of the cities in Fulton County. But, you know, because we've lived in this community since 1988, my children know no other home. It was just incredible to be part of a team of volunteers that said, we care so much about our community that we will invest hours, days, weeks, months to make sure that Johns Creek comes out of the ground as exceptional as it can be. And you all know by our school systems that are second to none in the state. And it's that we're receiving. It's been amazing. I will say some of the biggest challenges have been learning that it's important to listen to all voices. Many times you get excited about a policy or a proposal that's before you, and it may not meet everybody's goals, but you need to stop and think, what is the common good? What is the greatest good that you can accomplish? And then work toward that solution. We're living in a period right now where there's a lot of interests that diverge. We have lots of different ways we think public service should be delivered at the city level, school system level, state and federal level. But listening to all voices, being thoughtful, and then looking at what's the greatest good for everyone, you always come out with a good result.
Do you see yourself changing your role in the future?
I'm loving student finance. The opportunities I've had, at the Fulton County level, I learned so much about local government and how important it is to be attuned at that level. The General Assembly provided experience in bigger policy areas. Being able to run the Georgia Department of Revenue was amazing after being a tax practitioner for over 30 years. To be able to run the agency that I had been helping taxpayers comply with for so long was just phenomenal. And I learned so much there, and it was so nice to be able to add value in tax administration in the state of Georgia. As treasurer, it was great to have an insight in how we manage money and ensure that every dollar that revenue collects is thoughtfully and prudently invested, so it's there to spend on public service. But I will say, I never thought that I'd be running and with just an amazing team of professionals at student finance, the opportunity to provide $1 billion worth of higher ed aid every year now for students to achieve their educational goals. The mission is, you saw, to promote and increase access beyond high school for Georgians is so inspiring. This is just an exceptional place to be.
And I think our last question for today is, what do you think is a good timeline for students to become familiar with different types of grants and scholarships? We have sophomores, juniors, and seniors here.
The sooner the better. As I said earlier, we're going to try to message all the way down to 8th graders, because we see some choices that are made at that level on courses that they enroll in can make a great difference in their future eligibility for scholarships, grants, and loans. So the earlier that we connect with students on their secondary education, the earlier they can make these good plans and start making some comparisons at that age. So I would say it's never too early once you're in middle school, but definitely by 8th grade, and surely in 9th grade, you should be connected with us at Georgia Futures and start modeling the opportunities that you have ahead.
Does anybody else have any last questions? Or otherwise, at this time, class of 2023 can sign off. I hope you all have a great day.
Well, thank you so much. I had a great time with you all this morning. I know, like I said, after an amazing night of football last night, some of this might have been a little bit dry, but circle back with us anytime. I hope that we can be your partners on ensuring that you get the most out of higher ed and that you expend the least amount of money of your own or borrowing to do so.
Thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you so much, Lynn. As usual, great information for everyone.
My great pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
There's all kinds of thank you so much in the chat. So,